Welcome, Vistage members and guests. I'm Dave Nelson, a 13-year Vistage member out of the Pittsburgh area, part of CE 676, Dick Singer's group, and today your Fridays with Vistage host. We're talking about elevating your success, transforming limiting beliefs to grow your business and your life. Our guest today is Jason Hartanov. Jason is on a mission, as you're about to find out, to help CEOs and entrepreneurs exponentially grow their business and lives so they can achieve their wildest dreams. Hey, Jason, welcome to Fridays with Vistage. All right, quick introduction for Jason. Jason Hartanov, MBA, and a whole bunch of other TLAs, three-letter acronyms, is the CEO of Hartanov Enterprises, LLC, and Jason Hartanov Coaching, which was formed to equip and inspire leaders with the skills, expertise, and strategies to live boldly and reach their full potential. He is a sought-after speaker, by the way, now available in the Vistage circuit, so ask your chair if you want more after today, and expert in entrepreneurial leadership, personal growth, and business strategy. His services include individual coaching, corporate training, sales workshops, keynote presentations, and online training programs. Just a little bit more background. Before launching his company, Jason enjoyed success as an executive and sales leader for Fortune 500 companies in the high-tech industry, a fellow techie. He graduated with honors with an MBA from the University of Chicago, a very fine school. Jason brings his leadership experience, business education, and 25 years of personal development training and coaching to his clients. Now, if you have questions today, please type them in the WebEx Q&A panel. We'll answer some as we go and as many as we can by the end of the presentation. So, Jason, tell us how to elevate our success.
I will. Thanks, Dave, so much. So let me first start by saying that you are in the right place if you are looking to make a breakthrough or a quantum leap in your business or your life. If you've got a desire to take any aspect of your life, like your health or your wealth or relationships or happiness, or you want to just take an aspect of your business, like sales growth, profitability, or your culture, or simply just more work-life balance, which is like a common theme I hear out in the Vistage community, if that's what you want, you're in the right place, because that's what we're going to address today. So it's going to be a lot of fun, very rewarding. And here's the good news. I'm not going to tell you have to do more or work harder to make this breakthrough. And in fact, it's almost guaranteed you have to do less to achieve the breakthrough you want. So I hope that's good news for all of you. But what you will have to do is change the way you think, and specifically the beliefs that you have in order to achieve that new level of success you want. And that's what our talk's going to be about today. And I'm going to go not only show you how the mind is working to create the exact results that are appearing in your life today, but also a process to change those beliefs so you can achieve those new levels of success. So that's what we're going to have some fun covering today. So stick with us for this hour, and I've got an exciting kind of offer for you at the end. But let me tell you a little bit about my story. So it's October 1989, and I'm sitting in on a dilapidated couch, my leather couch, next to my half-drunk roommate. And I've got a Keystone beer in one hand, a remote control in the other, and it's 2 a.m. And I remember that night specifically because I had just dropped out of college and I quit the baseball team, and now I was a dead broke pseudo-entrepreneur, metaphorically living in a van down by the river. Now, if you picked up on that, that's Saturday Night Live. But ultimately, I was kind of at my rock bottom. Now, contrast that to a short time earlier. I was a star athlete and an A student in high school with a great future. And in less than a year before that, I had just gone from celebrating like admissions letters, choosing my classes, and playing summer baseball to now I'm choosing whether I was going to eat Top Ramen, which I remember because it was like 19 cents, or we used to eat like day-old mustard sandwiches because we couldn't afford the meat. But I always say I could always afford the beer, which is strange, but, as a 19-year-old kid. So there I was, at the top and all this talent and success, and then here I was less than a few months, a year later, I'm now kind of at my rock bottom. And if you try to explain that free fall rationally, you can't. Right? I had everything going for me. I had coaches telling me what to do, parents, family, people that cared about me, friends, all telling me to do different things. But see, I was doing things that weren't what I wanted to do. In fact, none of those decisions I made would make any sense to you unless you understand the inner workings of what was going on deep inside of me. You see, for the first time in my life, I'd hit my upper limit. And when I did, I started to make decisions that would bring me back to a level I was comfortable with. What really happened, if you want to get deep into the darkest secrets of my soul, I had literally finally hit these deeply hidden core beliefs that I wasn't good enough and that I didn't deserve success, at least at that level. And those limiting beliefs finally bore their ugly heads, and I sabotaged myself from basically going from a dorm room to now this dilapidated apartment. And that's kind of my story. But it's not just common folks like me, right? They're celebrities. We see this all the time, these celebrities who hit these upper limits and they self-sabotage. A 6-time NBA All-Star, right? And a world champion with the Lakers, married to a reality star, is found in a coma, foaming from the mouth, almost dead in a brothel in Las Vegas. His name, Lamar Odom, happened last year. Or how about Tiger Woods, right? Top of the world, worth $1 billion, on his way to break every golf record, and then he literally drives his tree and ultimately lives life into a tree, right? His car and right into a tree. Or how about Charlie Sheen? He was just found kicked out of a local bar by my house. He was the highest paid actor on television at one time, and then literally we watch him melt down on social media right in front of our eyes, right? Hit an upper limit, self-sabotage his way down. So these are some of the examples. We happen in business all the time. They happen in politics all the time. Everywhere we can see these when the media shows this fall from grace that people take. And I'm sure you can think about a lot of people in your life right now, whether it's some family member or a sister-in-law, brother-in-law, or a friend or somebody that no matter what level of success they have in their life, they bring themselves down. So they might get promotions and get more money, and yet they always find a way to get fired or have to change jobs. Or maybe they get relationship after relationship, and they have success, find someone new, and then suddenly now they sabotage their way back. Or maybe it's their health, right? They get on a diet, they lose the weight, and then they binge eat it back. So we see this playing out all the time. The problem is we don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to explain it because it's not an intellectual issue. It's not a rational issue. It's something else is going on that we're going to talk about today. Now, the easiest example, because what we love in these kind of communities and left-brain entrepreneurs, CEOs, and high-level executives, we like to think in metrics. Well, the easiest way is looking at lottery winners. We just had a $1.6 billion lottery, the biggest one. If you're on this call, you probably didn't win it because you'd be out in the Bahamas on a cruise ship spending your money somewhere else. But be glad you didn't, because here are the stats. 44% of all lottery winners are broke within 5 years. A third of all lottery winners actually claim bankruptcy within 7 years, which means they're worse off financially after winning the lottery than before. And do you know that they all have a higher incident rate of depression, suicide, drug and alcohol abuse, and divorce than the average American? And if you literally look at some of the interviews with past lottery winners, they'll tell you the worst thing that ever happened to them was winning the lottery. How do you explain that? You can't until you go through, and I'm going to share with you why they're doing what they're doing, right? So let me go back, because I didn't end up in a van down by the river, right? Went on. But what I did in that moment, so go back to that, I'm on the couch, I got my channel changer. Luckily, it was 2 a.m., and at that time, there were still infomercials. And what came up on the infomercial was a guy with an infamously big head, big mouth, big teeth, and a huge booming voice, and he said, whatever you believe you can achieve, all you need is personal power. Order my tapes. My name's Tony Robbins. And at 19 years old, that spoke to the truth of what was going on with me, and I convinced my half-drunk roommate to put that on his credit card, and here come the tapes, not CDs, not DVDs, not MP3s. It was tapes back then. And when they came in, I consumed that material like none before, and that has started this 25-year journey for me. Now, fast forward a year later, I'm back in school, graduate top of my class, straight A's at the University of California, Irvine, go on to then go to one of the top business schools, and I graduated with honors from the top business school. Now, I don't tell you that to impress you. I tell you that to impress upon you the fact that I didn't get anything from Tony that was new intellectually. I didn't get smarter. I didn't get a higher IQ. I didn't learn anything about education. What changed? My beliefs changed. My beliefs about what was possible for me, my beliefs about who I was and what I deserved in my life, and the moment that switched, boom, everything changed in my life, and then success came. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, you might say to yourself, that's really interesting, Jason, but how does this apply to Vistage and our businesses? Well, here's what was not taught to me at business school. What was not taught to me at business school is the fact of the matter is the great limiter of every business is the CEO or the leader's mindset. You are the great limiter of your business. Every result in your life you are creating. It is created through what you believe about yourself, what you believe about life, what you believe about the business and opportunities that are facing you. Now, this is not new literature, new wisdom. This is 2,000 years of wisdom. Every great kind of, leadership book or whatever else talks about this. In fact, I put a quote up there. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Right? So you're going to hear a lot of what I'm talking about is this wisdom literature. Now, what's my intellectual property is how do you apply this to your life and your business? How do we actually start to change those, right? And this may be resonating with you as I talk about you being the great limiter of your business. When I do workshops, everybody kind of nods. Now, our beliefs become our reality in three areas. One is our personal beliefs. So what you're creating in your personal life is because what you believe about your personal life. Now, hold judgment, because I'm going to go through the actual brain science and how this actually plays out. You will believe me after the end of this, whether you do or not. The second is your professional. So your business itself, what you think about your business, your opportunities in front of you, those kinds of things are the beliefs that are creating the results that you have. And then last is the company culture, right? What is culture? It is a set of beliefs that everybody has, common beliefs that we have. And so why is it that the Googles and the Apples and some of these companies, right, why do they have these set of beliefs? Even teams, you'll see it, like the Alabama and the SEC. Why is it they seem to win? Or Duke in basketball? Because they have a set of core beliefs that are actually generational beliefs that go through about their level of success. So let me ask you, who do you enjoy or who do you admire? Who are one of your heroes in business? When we think about guys like Jack Welch or Henry Ford or Sir Richard Branson or Steve Jobs or my new favorite, Elon Musk, what do we admire about these folks? What makes them different? It's not what they do, it's how they think. In fact, it's how they think counterculturally, how a Warren Buffett thought totally different about the way investing works. And Elon Musk thinks totally different about the ability to go after things like car companies and space travel, right? And that's what we admire about these folks. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how to do it. Now, let me share with you quickly the agenda. So there's 4 ways to transform your mindset. The moment you transform your mindset, everything around you will change. So the 4 ways. We're going to talk today about step 1, how to illuminate that. Right? What we're going to talk about is what is it, right? We don't solve, but we dissolve our beliefs. So when we shed light on our existing beliefs, our limiting beliefs, they start to lose their power. So we've got to get an identity of what is our belief that we're running with today and where it came from. Where did it get modeled from? I'll explain that to you in a little bit. And then what we want. What is it exactly the result we want? So we've got to illuminate, meaning really come to light, the things that are currently in our environment, what we have as beliefs and where we want to go. Then we identify. Right? What are the right actions to get that result? What has held us back from those actions? And it's always a fear. And then what are the beliefs we must adopt to be able to get new results? Because I'm not going to tell you to do something different, right? I'm going to tell you that you have to believe something different to be able to do the things. I'll explain that more. And then step 3 is imagine. We're going to actually imagine who is it that you need to become, the you 2.0 as I call it, the new person that's going to be in there running and changing the environment and your results in your life. And what are the top priorities for you in that role? And then ultimately how to implement it. Because even if we can identify and we can start to imagine who you need to be, the hardest part is going to be how do you implement it and stay on track. And many of you know this because if you've ever set New Year's resolutions, right, you know that within a couple of weeks, 80% of people, statistics show, are off their New Year's resolution. Because it's not about doing something, it's about believing something, which then leads to the right actions. Okay? So, because we're creating the results in our lives through our beliefs, I kind of need to explain to you a little bit about how the mind works. And all of this is supported by neuroscience, and I'll share some, but just know this is all coming from our scientific community. The first thing I want to explain is what is a cybernetic mechanism, okay? Cybernetic mechanism is a fancy term for a self-regulating feedback system, something that tries to regulate. When I go on planes, plane has one, it's called the autopilot. You put in a destination, and then it regulates. Even your GPS in your car, you put in a destination, if you off turn, it tells you to get back on course. Well, whatever room you're in today, you've got a cybernetic mechanism in the room called the thermostat. So let me tell you how a thermostat works. You put in a set point into the thermostat. Let's say, for example, 72 degrees. Then what's programmed into the thermostat in software, in this example, you program in an upper and a lower limit. So imagine, if you will, the upper limit, if it's 72 is the temperature we want to keep the room at, we might have an upper limit of 76 degrees. And we'll put in maybe a lower limit of, let's call it 66 degrees. So as the temperature rises in the room, and it gets to 73, 74, 75, and then it hits that 76, what does the thermostat do? takes action. The action it takes is to start the air conditioner, to get cold air coming in, to reduce the temperature back into that comfort zone. That's the key. So you might be thinking as I bring these terms up, comfort zone. So then it stays within 72. Let's assume it's the winter. So now the temperature drops and it hits that lower limit of 66. What does the thermostat do? It takes action and it kicks on a heater. And if the thermostat is functioning properly, it is keeping the temperature between the upper and lower limit to be able to keep it as close to that mean, the set point, as possible. So why do I bring this up? This is the exact phenomenon that's happening in your brain. Your mind it acts like a cybernetic mechanism for the results in your life. And that's what we're going to talk and prove to you today. So, let me give you an example. Everything in your life has a set point. How much happiness you deserve, your relationship with your spouse, what you believe about business, your wealth, all these things have it. Well, let's talk health because metrics are easy. So I've studied this on myself, and I know what my set point, which relates to my self-image and who I think I am and what I like and what I tolerate in my life, especially around health, my set point is about 184 pounds. You don't know me, you don't know what I look like, but just know 184 pounds is my set point. I also know I have an upper limit. That upper limit's about 194 pounds. So around the holidays, just like everybody else, I start having a little bit of sugar, a little fun, the candy and the Christmas candy and all that stuff, and you start enjoying maybe eating a little bit more, and so my weight goes up, and just like everybody else's, and then I get to that point in my upper limit, and what do? I take action. Right? I don't even think about it, but then I get so uncomfortable in my jeans or the way I look that I take action. I go to the gym, I stop eating so much, all those things we know to do. Notice, everybody knows how to lose weight. It's not an intellectual issue, right? So I also noticed I had a lower limit. I remember this specifically because I got down to about 174 pounds, and my wife said to me, she said, "You look gaunt," which I did not take as a compliment, so I realized maybe I don't look as good in that or the way I want to look at that weight. So I know my own upper limits. Now, you have those in every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life has that set point, the amount of happiness you allow in your life, the amount of wealth that you allow in your life. This is the example. This is why the lottery winners, right? They have a self-image about what they feel like they deserve and who they are and financially what they'll let into their life. The moment you drop in a few $1 million into their life and we've not changed their beliefs about who they are and what they deserve, they will self-sabotage their way. Crazy stories of how they lose money and do bad investments and all the rest until eventually they're back into their comfort zone. Same with health, same with relationships, all these things. And we're going to use some examples of this. It's the same in business, by the way. Right? It's why I'll go out and we'll talk about growing your business and that there's this upper limit where I've been at this certain $1 million mark for this many years and I can't seem to break through. If you're feeling that or if this is resonating with you, this is the upper limit problem in our lives that we're going to talk about today. Now, I've got to share something with you about the mind. I said this is what the mind does, okay? So there's two parts to your mind. There's a conscious part of your mind, and there's a subconscious part of your mind. Now, what's interesting is the conscious part of your mind is the thinking, the educated part of your mind, and it accepts and rejects ideas, and it produces the thoughts. So we actually think we are our thoughts. We think we're our conscious mind. Now, what's interesting that neuroscience tells us is your conscious mind is only 3% of the processing power of your overall mind. So it's very interesting. And by the way, the faculties of willpower and things like that are in your conscious mind. Now, your subconscious mind is your programmed mind. It's like a supercomputer, right? It's 97% of the processing power, and it's 1,000,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. And it can't reject ideas, by the way. It's what we call deductive. Now, I'm going to prove to you how powerful the subconscious mind is. Imagine, if you will, you are wanting to go from point A to point B. So you get in your car, and in point A, you get in your car and you're really busy. You're thinking, you're on the phone, you're thinking about stuff, there's a project in your mind or whatever else, and then 15 minutes later, you end up parking at point B, right, going, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Now imagine, if you will, the millions of inputs, the trillions of inputs into your senses that has to happen for you to function, to drive a car, a vehicle, 15 miles or wherever it was, and go through all the traffic lights and all the other things around traffic, and yet you ended up there and you didn't once think about it, right? Pretty amazing. That's the subconscious mind. Contrast that if any of you have ever driven overseas. Have you ever driven, Dave, have you ever driven on the wrong side of the road?
Indeed, I have. In fact, about 2,000 miles recently through the UK, and you have to be extremely conscious. In fact, your subconscious mind keeps taking you to the wrong side of the road.
It does, exactly. And the only way, I did this with my wife in Scotland, and the only way you can survive is you have to think thoughts in your mind that say, stay to the left, stay to the left, stay to the left, stay to the left.
Right? I even learned a song to go with it.
What was it? Tell me.
It was in another country, and it was drive your moped on the left-hand side.
Nice. I like it. See that? You actually have to think about it. Now, I'm gonna assume this, Dave. I'm going to assume at the end of you driving around in the day, you're dead tired, because that's the experience. We all, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're like, oh, my God, I'm dead tired. And guess what we all say? Oh, it's jet lag. It's the time difference. No, it's not. It's you took something that's like a 2-horsepower engine, which is your conscious mind, and you threw millions of inputs at it, and your conscious mind is not designed to do all that thinking, and so you get dead tired, and then you want to go take a nap at 2 o'clock over in a foreign country, and you blame it on jet lag. But it's not. It's the fact is your mind was never designed to do that. Now, imagine, if you will, you said something cool, which is your subconscious mind brings you back in your patterns and habits. This is why New Year's resolutions don't work, because the way people use New Year's resolutions is they use their willpower, which is a faculty of the conscious mind. And so they say, oh, I'm going to lose weight this year. They sign up for the gym, and then we know that willpower lasts about 7 to 10 days, and that's it. You can will yourself to do anything for a few days, and many of you that are business owners have known when I tell my salespeople to just go do this, they do it for a short period, but at the end of the day, everybody falls back into their quote-unquote beliefs. What they believe, their subconscious mind will take over, and we all experience that. So at this point, everybody kind of asks me, well, where do our beliefs come from? Now, there's a part of your conscious mind called the critical mind that is not fully functioning until after 8 years old, called the age of reason. Before 8 years old, you adopt every belief that's given to you as truth. You don't have a choice because you don't have that faculty of the mind actually produced. Psychology tells us this. So a 5-year-old boy or girl, if you go in and say the sky is green and you say it to them, they will adopt that belief. There's no way to change it. We know this because there's some very strange ideologies throughout the world, right, that have produced some atrocities throughout the world that people have inputted beliefs about other generations, other races, other people, and they play out these beliefs even though they're not rational, and it causes things like the Holocaust to happen. And we go, what the heck? Who would ever do that? Well, if you impute these beliefs, your brain will just play out and do and rationalize our beliefs. So many of us have these beliefs. Now, hopefully a lot of people get scared at this point because, yes, if you have children, they are observing you and creating their beliefs, and we all have these. And this leads us to our first poll, Dave. I'd like to do our first poll, which is, because these are fun, is finding out what is the disempowering belief that you have adopted from your childhood. I always ask people, what do you say that your dad used to say or mom used to say? Where is it that there's a belief that you saw your parent, how they treated money or life or whatever they said, like my dad used to say, money doesn't grow on trees, and what are these beliefs that were imputed in you as a child that now your life starts to look at? So, Dave, why don't you give them what their options are in terms of what
click one of these. You got a grand total of 30 seconds to pick one. We'll close the survey and then pick up with the answers. So I'll voice the answers here in a second. Jason, why don't you keep going?
Okay. Yeah, perfect. So we get those beliefs, right? Our beliefs are formed. More than 60% of our beliefs are adopted as a kid. By the way, sometimes people ask me, you can reject your parents' beliefs if something emotionally is traumatic to you. I always give the example of my example. I had a Russian immigrant grandfather who came from Russia and was through Ellis Island and was through the Depression. And what you learned as a man back then, and you taught my dad, is you don't show affection, you don't say I love you, you show it through providership, right? So there was no love or affection. Well, my dad, growing up, had the same belief and played that same pattern out, and so I never really heard I love you or got hugs from my dad or whatever. Well, I rejected that belief, and God granted me 4 daughters, and now I hug and kiss them. There's a rule in my family that every day Dad gets his hug and his kiss, without exception. Why? Because that belief didn't work for me. Emotionally, I didn't feel loved when I was a kid, so I rejected that. So it doesn't mean you are going to exactly turn out like your parents, but what you'll find is your beliefs are black or white. You either adopt them or you reject them, and there's really no kind of in-between. So
I'm going to jump in and share the results here because this is interesting. So 38%, or about 4 out of 10 of us on this webinar, said the disempowering belief is that life is hard and work. The next highest answer was money is scarce and needs to be saved. That was 25%, or about a quarter of us. And then the next one is money is good, spend it, and enjoy it. We also had about 5% of the people that answered either life is easy and fun or I'm not good enough. So there we go. And 19% of the people had yet some other belief that they grew up with.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so what I want to share is all those beliefs. We've got these set points. So go back to the mind is always keeping us in the comfort zone. That's the job of the subconscious mind, keep us in our comfort zone. So we've got this upper and lower limit, and we've got all these, whether your health, wealth, happiness, all of that. Think about you are acting like a thermostat. Your mind is keeping you within that comfort zone in all those aspects of your life. And the fact is that the struggle you're facing, the breakthrough you're facing is just the effect. The cause is what the programming, right? The belief. We don't go to the thermostat and, blame it if somebody programs it at 90 degrees and if the room's hot. We don't blame the thermostat. We blame whoever put the set point of 90 degrees in that for the room. So I just want to do that. So next polling question, Dave, I just want to go to kind of understand from people where their upper limit is. So as I give examples, we can do it. Where's the right now, when you think about your upper limit, where is it in your life or business that you feel like right now is the biggest priority for you to break through? Is it, in business or in life? Which of these options? Let's open that up for the polling question.
All right, and folks, you've got a total of 30 seconds, 15 left to go. So pick one of these 8 answers, and then we'll jump in with the overall results. I'm thinking about which one I'm going to click.
All right. I can't wait to hear. Okay. So now that we've identified our beliefs and all the rest, we got to put you through this 4-step process. So I'm going to cover this really quickly and maybe give you a couple examples, and then we'll make you an offer at the end here. But step 1 is illuminate. So I've got to start to illuminate the old mindset. So the first process is really, what are the beliefs that I'm currently running that are producing the results? And to do this, there's 5 questions I ask in order to get underneath the covers of the mind. See, we can't see our core beliefs. Just like the code inside your operating system or your computer, your beliefs are hidden. So they're in your blind spot. You don't know even that you're running them until we start to shine the light on them. So the 5 questions are: describe an area of your life or business that you feel like you've hit your upper limit. Dave, do we have the answers?
We do, and not surprisingly, with a executive level business audience, the number one area where people felt they were up against their upper limits, with more than a third, 34% of people answering business growth, either sales or profit. Work-life balance came in number 2 at 20%, a challenge for many of us. Personal relationships, which ties in nicely with that work-life balance, that was 11%, followed by net worth personal income at 9%, and then physical health and wellness, 7%, 4% folks said happiness. I missed 9% also for success and meaning. So, pretty wide distribution, but with heavy emphasis on business growth and work-life balance. More than half of people had one of those 2.
Yeah, and the truth is, I said all of the above. We'd probably have everybody would pick all of them.
Yeah, it's hard to make the choice on that one.
Exactly. But we forced it. So there's your upper limit, right? So then what you would do is say, briefly describe an example of where this happened, and then I'm going to give you 2 examples. But then, what have been the effects of hitting that upper limit, and what results would I want, and why are those results important? So I go through these exercises all the time, and actually, given time, I won't give the examples, but let's walk through, and I'll share with you what happens, because there's 2 points. As you go through these, so take these offline and go through these and start to answer them. When I do this in my workshops, 2 things emerge with all these hundreds of people and workshops I've done. The first is vagueness. Typically, I'll hear things like, I want to grow my business, or I want to lose weight, or I want more work-life balance, or I want to sell my business. And what's missing is specificity. So then I'll start asking them, how much do you want to grow your business, or how much weight do you want to lose, or how much balance, what would balance look like, or how much do you need for retirement? That's a common one. Everybody says, well, I'll do this when I retire. I go, great, how much do you need to retire? I don't know. Okay, well then that's a great way. So this is a way that the mind works. The second issue is what I call misdirection, and that's what we believe we want is actually not what we want, right? So, for example, I would say when someone says, well, I want more money, okay, do you really want $1 million? No, you want what $1 million buys you, because if I gave you $1 million and you couldn't spend it, you wouldn't want it. So what is it that's the why behind that? And so I'll start asking questions like, well, if you got X, then what? And then they answer, and literally I'll keep asking that set of questions, keep driving them back until we get the why behind what they want. Because it's not that I want $1 million. There's some reason I want the $1 million. And so, for example, growing your company is not exciting. But what does growing your company actually provide for you, right? And when I ask this question, people have that enlightenment of, oh my gosh, I see it. Because these are the two comfort zone strategies the mind's used to keep you stuck. One is vagueness, right? Vague goals produce vague results. We all know this. But the truth is, if I came into your business, your life, and I started to try to see how much specificity, it's missing. So everybody usually writes down at this point of go into my business in action, go into my business, start saying what's vague. Does everybody know the expectation? If you're just communicating a vision of we just have to grow our business, or even if we say we want to grow our business $1 million, it's not empowering and exciting enough, right? We've got to be very specific on what we're trying to achieve. And then the second is the why. Because the misdirection comes from, most people all drive this down and they're like, well, I want more peace in my life or happiness, or I want to feel like a great dad. But then they've misdirected it by picking a means to that end. They think they know the answer and how to get that. So that's what they focus on, but that's how the mind keeps us misdirected, if that makes sense. So I would say the problem is how you're thinking about the problem because you're solving the wrong problem. But that's how the mind works to keep us in our comfort zone. So what do we got to get clarity about? You got to get clarity about what you want very, very, very specifically to the 9th degree, and then why you want it. Because the why is the fuel to get the what. And we know this. We've heard the Simon Sinek talks. We know these things. But yet when I start doing this, I've got some examples of, I was just a couple weeks ago with this group, and one of the guys was an architect, and he wanted to grow his business, and it was flat. And the truth is, there's no why behind growing his business. So we started to do it, and I started to ask him questions. And he mentioned he was a pilot. I said, why are you a pilot? He says, because I love to volunteer my time. What do you do? He said, I love to pilot and fly doctors into third world countries to do medical aid as a volunteer. And he started to light up. His disposition, Dave, totally changed. He started to get excited. I said, how many people in your company know that's the mission? That growing your company is going to give you more money to be able to fund towards things like volunteering and sending money overseas and causes that are important to you. He goes, none. I go, why don't you share that why? See how many people want to get on board and excited to help you grow a company that has a bigger vision than just growth for growth's sake. And he was like, wow. So part of the strategy that the mind uses is vagueness and misdirection. So answer those questions, get very clear, and that'll help you. Now, the next part, I kept mentioning belief creates our results. So I want to go through this whole how your brain does that, because some of you are like, what does he mean by belief create our results? Dave, you didn't have that response, did you?
I did not.
Okay, good. Well, there might be some on the call, because I know it's first time I heard it, I was like, what's this guy talking about, right? Okay, so our beliefs sit in our subconscious mind with your self-image and your habits. Those beliefs cause a thought. The thought then goes into your conscious mind, right? We have a thought. Interestingly enough, you cannot hold a thought that doesn't support your belief. When you do try to think a thought that's not in support of your belief, things will show up are called fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So here's my example to you. Imagine, if you will, how much money you made last year. It's tax time. Think about your personal income last year. Now, I'm going to ask you to think about making that personal yearly income your monthly income. So if you made $100,000 last year, I want you to make $100,000 a month. Immediately what comes in your mind is you're going to tell me why that's not possible. I can't do that because of this. I can't do this. I can't do this, whatever. That's because you can't hold that thought because you don't believe it's possible, right? That's where our thoughts come. By the way, quick note, science tells us that you have 60,000 thoughts a day. Of those, 95% of those thoughts are the exact same ones you had yesterday. And we wonder why change is so hard. You're just recreating the same day in and day out. It's like Groundhog Day. Now, of those thoughts, 80% are negative. We talk about all the things we can't do or don't want or all the issues in the world. Now, I'm depressing people on this call, Dave. Probably not good for a webinar host to depress your audience, but what I want to tell you is it's because your beliefs are driving those thoughts. So we change the beliefs, those thoughts will change, we start to impute new beliefs in. Now, those thoughts drive an emotion. That emotion goes into your body as a feeling. That's why we say what you're feeling. That emotion comes, that emotion drives an action. That action drives a result. Okay? So every action has a preceding emotion. Every emotion has a thought. You can't be depressed without thinking depressed thoughts. right? And what in the limiting belief world, when you put limiting beliefs, I always ask people about their fears, because fears is the emotion of limiting beliefs. I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid of abandonment. I'm afraid that we'll lose money. I'm afraid I can't afford it. I'm afraid all these fears stop us from taking the actions that would create new results. Now, here's the interesting thing, Dave. Your results that you create go back and reinforce in your mind your belief. I create the world and believe it. Let me give you a quick example. It's important. It's my father-in-law. My father-in-law has a belief, basically, I could tell you more, but he has a basic belief that everybody's self-centered, they're all for their self-interest, and so people are just out to get themselves, for themselves. So he goes around the world and very conflict-oriented. My oldest daughter is a cheerleader. He goes in Southern California, you have to use umbrellas to get out of the sun. He comes sitting on the stadium, on the bleachers, and he pops his umbrella. And now there's a phenomenon in the world that says like energy attracts like energy. You all know this because you say the term birds of a feather flock together, correct?
Indeed.
So he sits next to another gentleman who I know is probably conflict-oriented, because that's how the world shapes out. He pops his umbrella in the way of the other gentleman. So now his view's blocked. So the other gentleman then says, "Hey, buddy, why don't you put down your umbrella?" To which my father-in-law, most of us on this call, Dave, I know you're a good guy, we would say, "I'm so sorry, sir. That was how thoughtless of me." Not my father-in-law. He says, "What's your problem, pal?" Right? Because he believes this guy's out to get him. To which that man then says, "I got a problem, it's you." And the next thing you know, two 7-year-old men almost get into a fight in the bleachers of a football game, other than my mother-in-law jumps in to save my father-in-law. Now, imagine, if you will, as my father-in-law walks away from that football game, what is the result he got? He got into conflict with another man because he believes that man was self-centered and self-interested. So the result then goes back into his head, and he says, "See, just like I said, people are all out for themselves." So the results he created actually reinforced the belief that he has. So when I talk to my father, he'll tell me all the evidentiary reasons why his belief is true. Apply this to your business. If you say your belief is, "I can't find any good people," you're going to go create that result and then tell me all the reasons why you've tried to hire people and they didn't turn out any good. If you tell me growth is hard, you're going to give me all the reasons, competitors and markets you tried and all these other things, because you're creating the results, and then those results reinforce your belief. That's how insidious this process is. That's why we have to break the pattern by breaking the belief, not that. This is why New Year's resolutions don't work, by the way. We focus on actions instead of the beliefs and thoughts that are going to drive the actions. Now, what you focus on grows, right? There's a little phenomenon in your brain called the reticular activation system, and all your 5 senses go in, and you have 11 billion bits of information that comes into your brain, and your conscious mind can only handle about 11. So how does that work? Well, we have a little filtering mechanism that we only see what we want to see. You've heard this. We see the world as we are, not as it is. That's our brain functioning properly. Let me share with you how this works. When's the last time you bought a new car? Think about that. The moment you made a decision to buy a new car, guess what showed up on the highways right in front of your eyes? All that car. It's crazy. So you made a decision, and then why is that? Did the cars show up after you made the decision? No, the cars were always there, but you never saw them until your belief shifted and you started thinking about the car. Then your mind allowed you to see the cars that were always there. It's a phenomenon. That's a mental phenomenon, right? So we filter out the things we don't want to see. Why is this important in business? It's the paradigm. By the way, Dave, you ever heard the analogy or the comment that she sees life through rose-colored glasses?
Oh, absolutely. And I remember when I bought my Lexus, how what great camaraderie I suddenly was feeling with all the other Lexus drivers on the road. It is so true.
It is so true, and there's a whole phenomenon of why that's true, because we want to buy something unique in cars. It's our identity, and so it bothers us that we see them all the time, because now it's like, wait a minute, because we want to be unique. So we don't want to buy the car everybody else buys. So that's why I was studied why that actually happens. But the paradigm of rose-colored glasses is if you see what you want in the world. The rose-colored glasses is I'm a positive person, I'll see positivity. Well, apply this to business. So if I'm a leader and I want to grow my company, I'll ask, well, what are you focusing on? And what you'll find is most of them, talk to them, they'll be like, well, I got to focus on the P&L, and I got to focus on expenses, and we've got this operational issue. And I'm like, well, where are you focusing and looking at sales? Well, I'm not, right? We'll see what we want to see. What we focus on grows. What you feed grows. So if the belief is, right, if I look at reasons why I can't afford to invest in that piece of equipment or hire that person versus the reasons I can't afford not to. I can't afford not to, right? Or if I'm looking for all the reasons why there aren't good people, I don't believe they're good people to hire versus looking for the right people, good people. So there's all kinds of concepts I share about this, but just understand that what you focus on grows. This is why misdirection is so problematic. You've got to focus on the results you want and the belief that would support it. Okay, so that's step one, illuminating all that. Step two is identifying your new mindset. This is about 1.0 versus 2.0. Right? And 1.0 is the old you, the paradigm through which the lenses through which you saw your business and your life. And so we've got to establish a new belief. The way you do this is I put you through a process where we have to go backwards because you can't access your beliefs, right? You won't sit there and say, oh, this is what I believe, because your mind won't allow you because evidence will convince you that your belief is true. And so you don't even have access to it. So the first thing we have to do is we go through this where let me give you a quick example to share with you how I go through this. So let's do that one. Okay, so a gentleman was dealing with growth in his business, okay? So I talked about the results that he has today. He does about $10,000 a month, and the results he wants, $50,000 a month. So I said, what are the actions or interactions you're taking to produce those results? That's on the left-hand side with actions of the old, right? So we put all those things about, well, he's the head salesperson, he does this, all the actions or inactions, because inactions are actually an action, then deciding not to do something. So all the actions. Then I went and said, okay, if we want to create a $50,000 month, what would the actions we would have to take? And he'd say, well, I'd have to actually hire a sales leader. I'd have to hire da-da-da-da. And he went through all the actions. So basically I asked you, what actions would you take if you were going to create those results, like you're a consultant? Then I ask, okay, so why aren't you taking those actions? What will bubble up? Remember the emotion I told you every limiting belief has is fear. And then I asked him enough questions to ask what was he afraid of? And he was afraid of losing money. Like it would cost about, X amount of money to invest in that sales leader. And so he was afraid if I lost the money, then I would, and that he would fail at it. He really believed that I didn't want to fail. I've tried other sales leaders before and they don't work out. So the fear for him was fear of failure and fear of losing money. So then what are the thoughts that drive that, right? So what are the thoughts that would drive that emotion, right? And he said things like, I can't pay enough to get a good person. I can't afford to get enough person. I don't really know the sales process. He would say things like, I don't really know how to find the right person or even how to qualify and hire them. So he had all these thoughts. And what were the beliefs that were driving those thoughts? The beliefs were, I can't afford it to hire a salesperson. I'm not good enough to hire the right person, and that I need to earn the money before we spend the money. And I said, where did that belief come from? He said, I've spent 20 years under a mentor who told me you always have to earn it, use cash flow to earn it, and then pay for it. And I said, how's that belief working out for you? He says, actually not good. So then we understood those beliefs, and we said, okay, so let's take the opposite. What's the truth about you not being able to afford it? And we went through a little dialogue, and he said, you know what the truth is? I can't afford not to hire that person. And I said, why? And he said, because my business will be stuck. I will never outgrow the fact that I am the great limiter of my business because I'm trying to do all the sales. And the truth is I don't really know that much about sales. If I was really self-honest with myself, I'm just afraid of spending the money. But the truth is if I don't spend the money, then I'm in trouble and the business will never grow. And I said, well, what's the fear then? If the business never grows, then what? He goes, eventually this business will be shut down. Amazing, huh? Change the belief, and then his fear shifted. His fear was, if I don't hire him. Now, what were the thoughts, right? He still had the fear of, well, I don't know how to find the right guy. I said, great. So the new problem we're solving is not should we hire a sales leader. The problem is how do we find the right sales leader? It's a whole different energy shift, right? So his actions coming out of that were setting up and finding the right sales leader. So this is a process that you go through to identify. So his new mindset had to be, right? I can't afford not to hire this person because it's the only way for me to achieve my results. Now, step 3, imagine the 2.0. See, let's use him for his example, right? So in the old days, I asked him, who is the old you? As you walked around, who were you? And he said, I'm the chief limiting officer. That's what his title. He actually brought it up. He said, how he really focused more on technology than sales. And he said, I feel like I was the chief limiting officer. I said, great. Who would we hire now with the new belief system? he said, and we threw out, ambassador of growth, ambassador of sales, sales poobah, all these things. And he said, I'm the chief growth officer. I said, awesome. I said, are you ready to fire yourself? I had this funny thing, Dave. So yesterday I was with a group, and I asked the gentleman who I was coaching in the group setting, and I said, have you ever been fired? He goes, no. I said, are you ready to get fired? He goes, yeah. And I go, okay, let me just tell you, you're fired. It was kind of like the old show, the Donald Trump show, right? You're fired. And he laughed, and I go, but here's the good news. I'm going to rehire you. But I'm going to fire the old you, and we're going to rehire the new you, because you've got to think that you're a new person, this you 2.0 that's coming out. So for this guy, it was chief growth officer. And I said, what are the characteristics and qualities of that chief growth officer? If we were hiring and we were the board of directors, who would we hire? And we started saying, well, he has to be focused on sales. He has to be bold. He has to be a great leader. He has to go out and talk to customers, and have great interactions, all that stuff. And I said, exactly. Do you have those skills? And he said, yes. And I said, great. And then we said, what do you need to start doing and stop doing? Because in that, if we were going to hire someone, we'd want a 90-day plan. What are you going to start doing and what are you going to stop doing? But if he continues to do the same activities he did before, he's going to get the same results he did. So we have to start that start and stop list, which is the next phase of this. And so through that process, we actually imagine who's the new you. And it's inspiring for people. I'm telling you, every time I do this workshop and we coach someone, it's like, whoa, this person's like, I really want to be the chief growth officer. By the way, let me give you a couple other names that have shown up. I've coached people that were called the chief everything officer, and then we made that person the chief empowerment officer because they tried to do everything in their business, which makes them the great limiter. And then this person said, I need to mentor and help people. I've had the chief do-it-all officer to be the chief mentoring officer. I've had people of Mr. Stagnant to ambassador of change because he had a belief that change was bad, and we shifted that. And then we've had lots of people who are the chief operations officer to be like the chief growth officer, because that's why many of you, 57% or whatever said, 34% said growing my business. Well, my question is, what are you focusing on? What are your activities? Are you focused on truly growth? Do you have all the concepts we've talked about? Okay. Last part of this is step 4, which is implement, because here's one of the most important steps, because the moment you show up in your world to be this new you version of you, every part of your environment supports the old you. So what happens is these things will show up in your life to make you want to retreat back to 1.0. Right? So you're going to show up and start being someone new, but then something's going to happen. Let me give you an example. The chief do-it-all officer who became the chief empowerment officer, you show up in your business the next day, and then there's 3 little fires that they have to put out. And so every part of them wants to go do what they always did, which is I'll go solve the problem. One of the phenomenons, Dave, you might know this, being around CEOs a long time, one of the biggest phenomenon is most CEOs like being the chief problem solver. That's a problem in a business because if you're the chief problem solver, and they do it because there's a lot of value for them, right? We get identity through that, and we like to, win that and get celebrated for that. But the problem is that you can never empower your people, and you don't want to be the chief problem solver. You want to be the chief visionary. So you'll show up in your world, and then suddenly all these problems will show up, and you'll want to run back to the old you to solve them. So you've got to start to implement these things. So you've got to change your environment. So the analogy I use is Clark Kent and Superman. Clark Kent was 1.0. He was the reporter. He dressed a certain way. He looked a certain way. He talked a certain way. He had an environment a certain way. He drove a certain car. He did all those things. But the moment he became Superman, his alter ego, his 2.0, he showed up in a new costume, a new uniform, a new way of thinking, a new belief system. So you have to start thinking about what are the ways I'm going to embody the new 2.0. That's what great actors do. It's the whole phenomenon, act as if. Have you ever heard that, Dave? Act as if?
Yes, or fake it till you make it. Same concept.
Yep. Same concept, exactly right. And so you have to do that. So I'm... very interesting story. So this week I was out with a group, and we went through this. He needed to be the chief growth officer. He was the chief do-it-everything officer. And in the first 5 years of his business, this is where he was stuck. First 5 years of business, he killed it. He grew his business, and then the next 5, he's been stagnant. So we went through this, and I actually just said, so tell me, how do you dress as the chief do-it-all officer? And he said, well, I dress in these work boots and these jeans and this thing. The guy next to him said, do you realize the metaphor, the fact that you wear work boots and yet you do everything in your business? You're in the weeds and yet you have hiking boots on. And everybody's like, oh my gosh. So I said to him, who would the chief growth officer look like? He said, well, I would wear dress shoes and slacks. And then he said something so profound. He said, he said, I guess I'd dress exactly like I did the first 5 years of my business. And everyone in the room had the aha. And we go, wait a minute, when you grew the business, right, and you were the growth officer, you wore that, but then you suddenly started putting on jeans and work boots, and now you're wondering why you're in the warehouse doing work all the time versus going out and going. It was like this amazing aha, because most people be like, does dressing really matter? It actually does, and how you think in mottos. So a lot of what I'm doing is helping people. It's called an anchor. Right? Michael Jordan, when he put on the 23 uniform, he became a new person. When golfers have a routine where they have a swing routine, so do tennis players, so do all great athletes. They have a pre-shot routine which gets them into the mentality of them as their best. The U 2.0. Speakers do this. I'm sure, Dave, you do it right before you go on stage or something. You get into that mode. You think certain thoughts. You have certain ways you do it. So these are all the things that you do is you start thinking, what do I have to implement in my life? And so mottos, behaviors. I had one time I did in a workshop, the guy wanted to be a great dad. We changed his beliefs. He had an 8-year-old daughter. I said, what's your favorite thing your daughter? What epitomizes your daughter? He says, she loves Barbies. Guess what his anchor was, Dave?
And I don't know, but you certainly reminded me as a speaker. It's showtime.
Yeah, exactly. And so, by the way, he put a Barbie on his desk. So every day he went into work, he remembered the why behind why he does what he does. He looks over at his daughter's Barbie, and that's the anchor to remind him that he's not just going to be a good CEO. He's going to be a good CEO and a great dad. So that Barbie sitting on his desk, and some people are like, oh, I can't believe I'd have a Barbie on my desk. Yes, you do, because everybody that walks in and goes, what's up with the Barbie? He says, you know what? He goes, I'm here to be the best CEO and the best dad I can be. And he gets a conversation topic, by the way. It reminds him every day. Okay. So then, by the way, we put in a short action plan because you got to take action from your new belief, and then we get an accountability partner. One of the best things about Vistage is you have built-in accountability with your team, and so then we pick a couple of people who are going to hold you accountable to the new actions, the new beliefs, and that new mantra. So a lot of times I'll have people say, okay, you're going to wear a new outfit, or you're going to put your Barbie, so text that to your accountability partners, and it's a lot of fun. So I've talked a lot in a short period of time, Dave. Thanks for putting up with me. But I do want to make an offer, which is I can't explain all of how to do this in a 50-minute conversation, but I've put together a free email course where over 10 days I'll send you 5 emails that will actually explain to you those 4 steps in more detail so you can do this yourself. So you can actually do this yourself. Just go to that www.createnewbeliefs.com. And you give me your email, and for 10 days you get my little emails that will tell you the steps, the actual tools and exercises to change your beliefs in whatever aspect you threw up. So with that, that's my gift to you guys. With that, Dave, I'm going to throw it back to you to see if we have any questions that in the last 7 minutes here I can answer. I know I covered a lot of depth and topics, a 4-hour workshop, and in basically 50 minutes. So, Dave, I'm going to throw it back to you and see if there's any, really urgent questions I can answer.
Jump in and get some questions. And so, folks, if you have a question, please type it in the WebEx Q&A panel, if you would. And, Jason, I especially liked your point about $1 million is worthless if you can't spend it, and it's really about what does $1 million get you, what does growing your business get you, be specific about what you want, and then why you want it. The why is the fuel, so I thought that was fabulous. So let's start with a question which gets to sort of a point of ambiguity. How does one consciously understand one's unconscious or self-limiting beliefs? How do you get to that subconscious mind?
Okay, and that goes back to the fact you can't directly because your belief's in your blind spot. That's why they're hidden in your belief. Your mind won't allow you. But I can see your beliefs by the results in your life. So if you first start with what are the results that I'm getting, that will lead you as you go through, well, what are the actions I'm taking that get me that result? Well, then what are the thoughts before I take those actions? And then what must be my belief? And then you'll start to illuminate that belief, right? Much of which accountability partners and other people and coaches and other people can help you see what you can't see, right? Which is why it's so important to have these kinds of people in your life. But I always say to people is you can tell me anything anything you want about what you pretend to believe, but if I don't see evidence of it in your business or your life, then you must not believe it, right? Yesterday I was with a guy, and he was talking about why he needed to exercise, which is he didn't want to die young, right? And his dad lived to 90. He didn't want to die young, yet he was overweight and whatever else. And he said, well, I believe I would die young. But I said, you really don't believe that, because otherwise you'd be exercising and all the things you want to do. And he looked at me and said, you know what? You're right. He goes, I've been lying to myself. I guess I don't really believe that life is urgent. He says, I really believe that. He says, if I did believe that, you're right. I would go make the time to eat better and spend time. So no matter what you tell me about your beliefs, I'll just look at the results, and then I go backwards from that, because results don't lie.
Okay,
Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's very good. Before we go to the next question, just a quick one. Chris is asking, there's an acronym RAS on the thought process slide. Do you have the definition for RAS? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's the reticular activation system. And that's a set of functioning in your brain that does that. So the thalamus and a few other parts of your brain, that's the great filtering mechanism. That's how we see what we want to see. It's how, by the way, this is the whole, what you focus on grows. I always do this in relationship coaching. First thing I'll do with somebody is say, let's say it's spouse, I'll say, think every morning 3 things you appreciate about your spouse in the morning. Write them down. After 7 days, you'll have 21. Because why? If you focus on the positive of your spouse, you'll see more positive to focus on. But if we focus on the negative, you'll find more negative to focus on. It's why 2 people can go to the same party. One believes the party will suck. One believes the party will be great. And they go to the party, and they actually go see evidence to their belief, and they walk away from the party going, one person will look at the other and go, how was the party? And the person will say it sucked. And the other person will say it was great. What's the truth? Was the party great or not? Both. Whatever you believe, you create as truth to you. So same party can suck or be great. Everyone's experienced that. I did it with my wife the other day. So that's the reticular activation system.
All right, so that's a great bridge to the next question. I strongly resonate with the Henry Ford quote. That was what the human mind can believe or can conceive and believe it can achieve, and the idea that we all put ourselves in boxes. So that said, how do you distinguish between self-sabotage and failure, or a compelling vision with achievable goals versus, hallucination and the impossible? Or do you not believe that there is anything that's impossible?
Yeah, I don't believe you would hear it. Look at Elon Musk. Here's a guy that walks in and he says, I'm going to go raise money to build American car company. The last successful American car company was Chrysler in the 1920s, 1925. So we'd all say, you're crazy. It's impossible to build a car company. Then he says, oh, by the way, not just any car company, an electric car company. Do you know what the last successful electric American car company was ever? Never. Zero. So here's a guy that's totally bridging the unknown and saying that. So then he gets money, he builds Tesla, one of the great success stories of our generation. Then he says, you know what, let's change space travel, right? We're going to go make space travel affordable. We'd all say it's impossible to do that. Guess what he's doing? SpaceX. So
and
I would just tell
Solar City at the same time. So Elon
and by the way,
a lot of things.
Yeah, somewhere along the line, that person, their parents, somebody sold them, you can't do anything you want. There's a story, by the way, look it up. I don't watch boxing, but a guy named Tyson Fury is the heavyweight champion of the world. He was a 3-pound baby in Ireland somewhere, and they named it Tyson because Mike Tyson was the heavyweight champion. His last name's Fury, not a coincidence. And this guy just became the heavyweight champion of the world a few months ago. When they interviewed him, he had such a belief since he was literally a baby, I will be the heavyweight champion of the world. Everybody would say, small-town guy, doesn't even look like a boxer, whatever else, literally beat Klitschko or whatever his name is to win I watched that and I was like, that's the phenomenon of belief. He believed it so strong, he willed everything around him to conspire to where he went in and beat the heavyweight champion who'd been 10 years the champ. And I watched the documentary and I said, there's the power of belief. I don't believe anything's impossible. And yet if our parents tell us, you know what? Fear of failure says, don't stretch yourself. Don't think too big. Be careful. That's the belief of fear of failure, the fear of don't stretch, don't overcome the flock. Don't put your head out. Don't stretch yourself or you might get hurt. This is what we hear as a kid, and so we bring that into our businesses. And I'll come into a business and I'll say, let's 10x your business. And people are like, oh, no, we can't do that. Why? There's plenty of businesses that 10x in a year. Why can't yours? Well, because you believe it can't. So I would just challenge that whole belief system to say anything's possible. We see it. And we're inspired by people who break the odds, right? Okay, Dave, another one?
All right. One last question, because we're right up against the top of the hour, but this is an interesting one that deals with those that are perhaps around us. How can I ignore the naysayers around me and not become defensive or feel like I always have to prove myself?
Great. Good one. Okay, so let me throw this out. So what's the belief, asking the audience, what's the belief that must be running in that person's mind, right? Which is that, because I would say, why are you tolerating naysayers around you? Right? Why are you becoming defensive? So first of all, why are you creating and tolerating that environment? Because what you believe, you will create the results. So what usually is running, and I don't know this person, and it's a great question, but there's something about the need to prove themselves comes from a belief that I'm not good enough. 80% of the high performers I work with all have this belief that was rooted in childhood that I'm not good enough. This was my belief when I showed up in college. My dad criticized me as a kid, and so I always believed that I wasn't good enough. So I went through the world to prove that I was good enough. So then when I came back out, I wanted to go to the top MBA school and graduate at the top of my class because I wanted to prove to everybody, like you, Dave, that I was smart enough. And then I achieved that goal, and I realized that goal is hollow because nothing outside of myself is going to make me feel good enough about myself, right? So I can't look at other people to say, I need to prove myself. I don't try to prove myself anymore to anybody but myself, meaning I find my own inner peace, my own inner happiness. So I would say why are you becoming defensive? Just allow those people to have their thoughts or whatever else and just say, look, I don't need to prove anything to you. I'm good as I am. And so there's some deep core wounded beliefs in there that, by the way, most of us that are successful have because we're all running from something usually. And what I tell people is run towards something. Go create a vision for your life that's so big that you want to run towards it. And the naysayers don't matter. I don't have naysayers in my life because I won't tolerate them. Because I just don't, I deserve better because I believe I do. So, and that's really hard for people. As we up level, the first thing that happens is you up level someone in your belief and you become U 2.0 is everybody around you wants to bring you back down because they're used to it. They feel it's a risk. The moment I become someone new, I got to tell you this story real quick, Dave. So I do this with relationship coaching, and like with the men, have them becoming the best husband they want to be. The moment they start doing these things, the wife goes, who are you and what have you done with my husband? And the first thought they think that must be going on with the husband is he must be having an affair. Because it's so true. It's 100% accuracy. And so guess what I have to tell all these men? I have to say, you have to communicate up front with your wife that you're doing new behaviors because you want to be a better husband, to be more for her, because otherwise she'll think, why is it just like going to the gym? I did a health thing yesterday, and I said, the moment you start going to the gym and start losing weight, you better tell your wife and everybody else around you you're doing it not because there's no bad ulterior motives here. You're actually, communicate why you're changing because there is this environment. And by the way, there's a lot of people you have to leave behind because when you start to fly like an eagle, the pigeons will all start to gather around trying to hold you back. I don't fly with pigeons anymore. It's eagles or nobody, right? So that was on my little soapbox there, Dave. But
that's a perfect place, very inspirational place to end it. So Jason Hartanov, thanks so much for joining us today on Fridays with Vistage.
You got it. Thank you, Dave.
And folks who have listened to this, you'll probably want to listen to it again straight away because you heard how much energy and speed and momentum Jason brought to the webinar. It will be posted by the following Wednesday, so less than a week. And we're going to be back with another webinar in 2 weeks on April 1st when Peter Lehrman will be speaking on private company valuation. So as always, you can access or register these things at vistage.com/FWV, as in Fridays with Vistage, and that's a public part of the My Vistage site, so you can bring other people in your company. And as always, you can access these past recordings at vistage.com/webinar. So on behalf of Jason Hartanov and the entire team at Vistage International, I'm Dave Nelson. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great weekend.